Of all the things in this recent garden project of mine, this rock-filled gabion basket wall has sparked the most queries. What is it? How do you make it? Is it easy to do? Well, today I'm going to show you. Of course, space is getting a bit tight at my place, so I've come to a mate's house just around the corner, surrounded by this beautiful native garden, to build a rock-filled gabion seat as opposed to a wall. And I'm going to plonk it right here alongside this path, and the first thing to do is to prepare the site. I've chosen this spot just off the main path for a nice little seating spot. You can see here I'm just digging off the mulch and the soil that's got plenty of organic matter in, and just putting that to one side, and that'll be scraped back once the seat's in place. And the main thing is to get down just to the subsoil sand underneath. A good little tip for working within established gardens is put a tarp down, have your buckets handy, so when you're digging, you don't make too much of a mess. You can see I'm just crudely digging a trench here, which will be slightly oversized from the dimensions of the seat, which is about 75 centimetres long by 40 centimetres wide. And having it slightly oversized means I'll be able to slip it in there and then backfill properly to get it nice and secure. This piece of weld mesh will form the frame of the gabion basket, the base of the seat if you like. Now this piece cost about $40. You can get it from most hardware stores, and in fact it's the only material that I've had to pay for in this entire project. It's obviously too big as is, so I'll cut it up to suit the dimensions of my seat. With the weld mesh cut to shape, I'm using these netting clips just to pin it together and hold it to shape. But to make sure it's really strong, I'm going to tie it off using high tensile fencing wire. Well, there's the basic frame held together, and you can see I've used a fairly light gauge weld mesh, and that's fine because it's only going to be holding together a fairly small amount of rock, and obviously the bigger the wall and the heavier the material, the heavier gauge wire you should use. Now, to make sure the whole thing doesn't sort of bow and spread when it gets filled full of rock, I'm going to insert a piece in the middle and wire that to the outside edges, which will make sure it stays nice and firm. Sweet. So the position's good in relation to the path, the height's good, and the level's fine. Now, keeping in mind, the levels need to be near enough, but there is room for adjustment once the rocks start going in. I'm starting off by filling the base of the cage with bits of rubble. Sweet as a nut. Now that I'm above the soil and the mulch line, I'm taking a bit more care, putting the face rocks around the edge so it looks nice and neat. But I've got a little surprise here too. Look at these Banksia cones that I'll put in place on the outside. I'm going to sit them so the follicles just stick out. And I think it's a perfect theme for this garden, which is full of mature Banksias. This lovely piece of timber is chewit, which is a hardwood from the southwest of WA. And I'm just putting some boiled linseed oil on it, which will bring out the colour but also help preserve it. Doesn't that look fantastic? All I have to do now is secure it underneath and chock it up to stop the wobbles, and it's done. One of the best things about rock-filled gabion baskets is that they also make wonderful habitat for insects and spiders and lizards and skinks. But it's also just a really good spot to sit down and enjoy your garden.